Transformers movie coming out called Transformers Rise of the Beast, and it has a ton of G1 characters coming in, as well as characters from Beast Wars. You know, one of the most popular and most beloved Transformers media in recent history. So you know they're trying to hit that nostalgia bait if they're bringing in Beast Wars. And unlike previous Transformers movies, this one is actually meant to be a soft reboot that's taking place in the same continuity as Bumblebee, but ignoring all the rest of the other films. Because Bumblebee in and of itself was a reboot, there are a lot of things that would contradict the continuity of the other live-action films were it to be set in the same continuity. So that kind of begs the question, is this movie going to be good? Well, to a lot of people, the fact that Michael Bay isn't directing means that it's automatically going to be better than the previous live-action Transformers movies, but Michael Bay is still on the film as an executive producer, so he's still kind of around, obviously, he's just not the leader this time around. Besides, Michael Bay isn't entirely to blame of those live-action Transformers films because he's usually the director, and a director's job is usually to, well, direct people into making the film. He's usually not the writer, so if anybody is to blame for those previous live-action Transformers films, it's the writers. Then again, even Michael Bay probably has some sort of creative say on designs and writing, so maybe he does have a little bit of a blame, but it doesn't matter now because he's not the director. This time, there's going to be completely different crew making this film. But just because somebody else is making a new Transformers movie besides Michael Bay doesn't mean it's going to be good. It just means that somebody else is taking the director's chair. For all we know, the same sort of style that Michael Bay uses for the Transformers movies could apply here. Instead of having that same tone with Bumblebee, it could just be, well, the previous live-action films, but this time with G1 designs and Beast Wars. There are a lot of hints in this trailer that lead me to believe that it could be similar to the Michael Bay films. However, there is something different about this trailer that does give me hope that this movie will in fact be good. It's the fact that the trailer mostly focuses on the robots. Have you noticed that in most trailers for Transformers, it's usually the human characters that get a lot of focus? Really, only the first Transformers movie and Age of Extinction are the only films that actually seem to take their time to develop the robot characters. But for the majority of the rest of the Transformers movies, it's usually the human characters that are the main characters, while the Autobots and the Decepticons are just the side characters. Now that may not sound too bad because, hey, why wouldn't you want to develop your main characters? Except, nobody really cares about the human characters. It's kind of like Godzilla. Sure, the human characters are there to drive the plot forward, but the main characters are the monsters. And the same thing applies to the Transformers movies. The main characters should be the Transformers themselves. I mean, isn't that what the franchise is named after? For example, does anybody say a human character is their favorite character? I mean, does anybody say Sam Witwicky or Kate Yeager are their favorite characters? No, nobody says that. Everybody says that Optimus Prime or Bumblebee or Mirage are their favorite characters. They say the robots are their favorite characters, not the human characters. So it's clear that this franchise is meant to have the robots as the leading main characters. Take a drink every time I say main characters. Now, it is true that when it comes to movies like Godzilla or any franchise with a creature feature, it's true that people tend to dismiss the monsters as just big dumb monsters instead of characters because, you know, humans are biased that way. We tend to think that the monsters are the antagonists and the human characters are the real people that we have to follow and relate to and whatnot. It's kind of sad that monsters usually don't get that same respect because Godzilla, Kong, and a bunch of other monsters do have personalities and character to them. They just get dismissed because, oh, those monster movies, they're just B movies. We don't take them seriously. There's not a whole lot of respect when it comes to creature features. However, the Transformers do have a lot of personality and humanization to them that people can definitely see them as characters, and there isn't that bias. When you look at the Rise of the Beast trailer, sure, there's human characters in the trailer, but they're not the focus. The focus is on the robots. For example, the first part of the trailer heavily focuses on Mirage and how his powers work. In another Michael Bay driven Transformers movie, the trailer would have most likely focused on the human character screaming and wondering what's going on. However, we don't get that, at least not too much. Instead, we focus on Mirage and his abilities, putting emphasis that the Mirage character is the main character while the humans are the side characters. Because the trailer doesn't focus on what exactly the human characters are or what their arc is going to be, but rather it's focusing on the fact that the Autobots and the Maximals are teaming up to face a brand new threat. This time around, it seems like the trailer is hinting that the movie will actually focus on the robots as characters, which was kind of a problem in the previous live-action Transformers movie. Now, I hold the first movie with great regard. The first movie is at least pretty good. The human characters are actually well developed enough that you want to follow them, but the robots do get a lot of screen time that really develops their characters. So yeah, the first movie's pretty good, but then Revenge of the Fallen just kind of dropped the quality, and although Dark of the Moon is pretty good as an action peace film, objectively, it isn't as good as the first movie, even though Sentinel Prime is a pretty good villain, not gonna lie. Age of Extinction brought back the idea that the robots are characters and they do get a lot of development. It's just that the movie is way too long and there's a lot of subplots that really clutter this movie. And you could have just basically taken out the human characters and focused on the robots being hunted, but that's beside the point. And then The Last Night is easily the worst one of them all because they try to fit so many things in there that it just ends up falling apart. But that's besides the point. The Transformers movies usually forget that the Transformers are supposed to be characters. But Rise of the Beast, or at least the trailer, seems to hint that the movie will in fact have the Transformers as the main characters. They will be the focus of the movie. They will have the major arcs that they will go through. I mean, the biggest example that the movie will focus on the robots this time around is if we analyze the previous trailers for the Transformers movies. The previous trailers kind of look like horror movies where the human characters are in danger from the giant evil robots that kind of de-emphasize that the robots are supposed to be characters. But the way this trailer opens, Optimus Primal shows up, and then Optimus shows up telling him to stand down, but then Optimus Primal tells him that, hey, I'm not the one to be feared at. When the trailer's very first scene is the robot characters having a conversation, that establishes that they are characters, and that the movie will in fact focus on the robots. Now, it is true that the rest of the trailer plays out kind of like a Marvel Studios trailer where it's a bunch of action set pieces and you vaguely get a hint of what the plot is supposed to be. But the point is, the trailer does put emphasis on the robots as characters, so it does give me hope that maybe, just maybe, this movie will actually be about the Transformers. And if the Autobots and Maximals are the focus and they are the main characters, then I'd say the movie is on track to be very great. Now, just because the trailer is good doesn't mean the movie will always end up being as good. For all we know, Transformers Rise of the Beast could be the worst movie ever made and the trailer was just a fluke. But as a Transformers fan, I want to hold out hope that this movie can in fact succeed, that it can break expectations of what a typical Transformers movie can be, and that it can be good. But in the end, the only way to find out if this movie will truly be great is to go in and see for yourself. And that's all I have to say about Transformers Rise of the Beast. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, as well as hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell for more content like this. If you want to go support me on Patreon, links will be provided in the description below, as well as links to my Instagram and DeviantArt pages for bonus content.